The British pound moved lower early today, but rallied back to unchanged at 126.20 after talk that maybe the decline in inflation isn't moving quite fast enough or isn't going to continue to move at the levels needed to cut rates. We did see the dollar prop up slightly today, but didn't stop the pound from rallying off the lows. The pound, which has been stuck in a range since the middle to end part of November, between 125 and 128, never saw a great threat of moving outside of that range, and again, closed today very close to unchanged after dipping lower early in the session at 126.20. Now, what does this mean for volatility? Well, check out that CVOL index over at cmegroup.com. You'll notice the volatility has made a big move lower in the last couple of sessions. Following the central bank meeting last week, we heard from Governor Bailey. He talked about not needing to be aggressive in cutting rates as inflation remained elevated, and they would like to see that come down even further, keeping rates elevated to do that. So not expecting any rate cuts there. That goes along with the theme today, as we heard from one of the other governors talking about keeping rates elevated for longer, helping to nudge volatility lower. Likewise, holding that range since the middle part of November, that 125 to 128 range, the market has seen no breakouts and likely will not until we get to a next catalyst event, which could be the next Bank of England meeting, which isn't until March 21st. But again, volatility lower today as we remain range bound. Lastly, let's talk about positioning. What are speculators doing? Well, speculators as of last Tuesday, that's before FOMC and before the Bank of England meeting, have been continuing to add to their net long positions, something they've been doing since the early part of November. So we've seen the positioning add to their net longs, despite the fact that there has been talk in other central banks cutting rates. None of the major central banks have started cutting rates, but there's been talk and market expectations. But we've seen the pound rally and hold elevated levels since the early part of November. And positioning is a lot of that. We've seen those speculators continuing to add to their net long positions. So nearing the end of the week, the pound opens lower, then rallies back to unchanged, holding at 126.20, range bound as rate cut expectations continue to drift further and further out the calendar.